Hi guys, welcome to this brand new episode of Monique's TV. This one, guys, I have to read my introduction because by the time you see our guest and hear from her, you will know why I have to read, dot my I's and cross my T's. So, this is the Young Black Female Achiever series, and just as a reminder, this series is where we showcase and celebrate women under 40 doing great in their fields of endeavor against all odds. Today, I have the privilege to bring to your screens the beautiful, charismatic, delectable, bold, and bright Dr. Cynthia Unuigbe. Dr. Cynthia is the founder and CEO of Sleep and Cradle Solutions. She's a physician, a subject matter expert on postnatal sleep health, a maternal and child advocate, a health tech innovation and equity speaker, and a startup advisor. Can you please welcome with me Dr. Cynthia Unuigbe MC? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm having my mouth open, just smiling.
Hey, I'm so excited to have you. You know why? Apart from your amazing personality, the good work you're doing, you are the first physician we are having on this show, and I really cannot wait for you to share your experience for our audience, including myself, to learn from you. So welcome once again. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, let me just do a little bit introduction on how I met you. I met Cynthia about 10 months ago. That was in Florida. And immediately Cynthia walked into not like when you walked into the room. You were in the room before I got there, but immediately someone whispered to me and said, "Oh, do you know her? She's a doctor, she's this, she's that." I'm like, okay. And then I looked and I saw you and I was like, okay, she's very well dressed. I love the physique, I love the figure, I love everything. And then boom, when you came to speak to me, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You really have a very bubbly personality. You exude so much confidence. I love that about you. And that is one of the reasons why you're on this show. So, girl, I love your confidence and I love that you're doing great things in the healthcare sector. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I think you've said so much, and if I just stayed here and I just smiled, you've done all the work. I'm gonna jump right into it. My name is Dr. Cynthia, and I am I can be anything. I can be your friend, but for the purpose of this conversation, I'm a subject matter expert in postnatal sleep health. I'm the
Mhm.
founder of Sleep and Creative Solution. I'm a healthcare strategist, and I'm passionate about improving the quality of lives of parents, new parents. I'll share this. It was never a plan to be a business owner. It was never a plan to be a business owner. It just happened, and I'm gonna share the story on how this started. Well, finished medical school in 2016, and the goal was to practice and be a pediatric surgeon. So, just started to take my butts. This was in 2018. And at the time, I wanted to work per time. I wanted to work per time, and this I worked in the capacity of I got certified as a newborn care specialist. Nigerian parents pay for everything. So for the first time, I wanted to be independent. At the time, I think I was 33, so I was working per time and studying, to get into residency. And I was going into people's clients' home just once a week to take care of a newborn. Now, prior to this time, I'd had experience working with children from when I was in medical school. I had the privilege of working with National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and the World Health Organization. So I was very passionate about children. And I knew that I wanted to um once I saw a problem, I wanted to solve it. Like that's what I wanted to do. So I was very inclined to go into pediatric surgery because I was very passionate about kids. And at the point, the parents were very impressed in my delivery and asked if I could come in every Saturday. I told them at the time I was going to think about it. And they wrote a review about me. I think I picked them up on the offer 2 weeks after. There were a review about me, and then I had like 35 people trying to hire me simultaneously to help them with their baby sleep. So in my head, I'm thinking like, no, this does not seem right. What's so fantastic about what I'm doing, right? And I looked into the prenatal and postnatal clinic and realized that there was really no support post delivery in the US system. And I was crazy enough to say, like, oh, this is an integral part of maternal and child health, and put my career pursuit on hold to start really supporting parents in their homes to really understand their pain points, gather key insight to create like a scalable solution. So that's the story. That's how it started. And that's how, Sleeping Purdue came to be.
Amazing. Well done, doctor. That is very unique and you're doing a fantastic job. Well done. Still introducing you. I would like you to say something else, something different about yourself other than what you do at Cradle and Sleep Solutions. What are your hobbies, other things you do, whether they're monetized activities or non-monetized activities? Could you just share some with us?
All right, so I love to sing. I love music. I have a trained voice. I love to sing. I enjoy all genres. Like I enjoy all kinds of music. I think one of my favorite things to do is to go to like a jazz club. I love traveling. I'm quite very private, but our business will always put you in front of a camera. I love sports. I work out a lot. I work out every day. I enjoy golfing, and I'm about to really dedicate so much time to golfing. I I love fine dining. I love fine dining.
Okay.
I love shop. I think I love to drive my siblings crazy as well. Just,
I think we all do.
I'm the first of six, and I because I can.
Yeah.
Uh, it just I never mind my business. I want to know what they're up to. Um, what else? I love to interact with people, right? So one of the things about me is I don't wait for people to reach out to me. I'm reaching out to you. None of my friends call me. I call them, and I never accuse them. I could call my friends. I'll call you. If you don't waste your time, I'm gonna call you and have a conversation. So I'm that person that is very interactive. And if anybody has a problem with me, you need to check them. Okay? No, because I'm very, very conversational. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah, and I love that about you because the first time I met you, we did have long chats and I learned a lot about you. Okay, I want you to talk a little bit about your background, where you grew up, your family, religious beliefs, if you do want to share. But basically, tell us a little bit about your background and how that has helped you to become who you are today.
Okay. Now this one I have a conversation with my auntie
Okay.
an hour ago on this. Uh, I'm the first of six Nigerian. Uh, the greatest influence I've had in my life has been my mother.
Okay.
My mother is a definition of a virtuous woman. I've never met anyone like her. Okay. And I'm going to share the reason why I think she's awesome. Now, I also have a dad that's exceptional. So my dad and my mom are both very generous.
Okay.
They are compassionate and they are givers. And to be they actually made investments in people and they paved the way for all of us to be successful.
Mhm.
My parents are so generous that we have never been alone with our parents in the home, and we do not have a family photo. We always had someone, aunties, uncles, like we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is to have our parents to ourselves. We do not know that. Those are the kind of parents I had. But my mother, she's very unique. She got married at 20. She's a homemaker, but she's also very resourceful. So when it comes to like business, I actually got that from my mother. She's always had a business, never worked for anybody, and she was very principled.
Mhm.
My mother is someone that believes in God and believes verbatim in the principles of, honoring your husband. So there were principles that I saw her do. I've never seen my mother raise her voice at my father. Okay. She was a very principled woman. But something that I saw with my mother was that God always blessed the work of her hands because she understood some principles that were so dangerous but worked. Okay. She honored her husband, made sure that she protected her husband. Sometimes children will want to take sides, with our mother. And this woman will stand her ground and say, "This is my marriage. You're going to honor your father. You don't disrespect him." So this was a woman that was a mother hen cultivating us, teaching us principles, right? But she was also very industrious, very enterprising, always had a business. She has been a money woman. In fact, right now we're collaborating, we're digitalizing her business. She's like a catering industry, has over like 12 staff strength. She is exceptional. But this is somebody that you would never hear her voice. I think it's us children that made her into a talkative. Of course, when you have like six children, you're going to lose your mind, but she is one of the greatest influence in my life. The greatest influence. Like now my dad is also awesome. He's a good man. My dad, I think his blood pressure is 60, 90, 60. You can never annoy him. If he is in the business of helping people, he's going to choose your interest against his. That's what he does. Okay. And so I was just looking through, I was looking at all of my siblings, where they are, what we're doing. We're all very successful. Guess what? Yeah, we're hardworking. Yes, we studied, but come on. The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but it's the Lord that showeth messes, right? This
Absolutely.
people sowed like they sowed in people such that they opened up doors for us. And so I would say that about, the family I came from. And so my compassion, my generosity, it's not because I'm great. It's just, a representation of who they are from where the tree I'm falling from because they were just that way. And so whatever it is we're doing, we're very compassionate, we're very open. And so I would say about that is, one of my greatest influences.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mom. We appreciate you. That's a beautiful story. Very beautiful story. Okay. For the sake of time, I want us to run quickly to the other question I have in relation to your background. So now I know that your parents played a pivotal role in your life and for you to become the great businesswoman that you are in the healthcare sector. Right now, could you please share with us some of the steps you took to become the CEO that you are today? And when I say steps, I want you to give us some practical steps,
I will.
not
We're,
just, oh, we
we're
took
gonna go.
we
We're
were
gonna go all the way. In this one,
all the
I'm
way.
gonna go all the way. So,
Okay.
one of my favorite scripture is write the vision, make it plain upon tables, so
Mhm,
that they that read will run with it. The vision is for a appointed time. Don't am I tired? Wait for it.
mhm,
This talks about precision, clarity. It talks about discipline. It talks about clarity. So while I was in high school, I did a lot of reading. I was reading, Papa's Driven Life. I was reading Jerry B. Jenkins. I was reading David of Oyedepo, Paula White. I
wow.
was voracious
Okay.
with studying and expanding my mind. Okay. And I was very intentional about what I wanted. When I got into university, when people joke around and say you're stupid, I would stop and say, you do not say that to me.
Mhm,
I would tell people, like, you can joke around with yourselves, but do not tell me I'm stupid. I was telling people I was going to work with the World Health Organization. I had absolutely no idea. I was speaking, like, imagine that. So I was very intentional about what I wanted, right? And I think there were some things that would have deterred my determination that I probably am going to share. You probably are going to ask me about that, right?
Yes.
But but one thing I did was I sought God about my purpose.
Mm.
You see, when God says ask and it should be given to you, seek and you should find, knock you should know. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. I think it's a gift to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. It is it is a gift, it is a mindset. Not everybody can. Your job might just want be a fantastic employee, maybe COO or something, right? But I did seek God's face. I went to Bible school when I had like a strike at some point. And at that time, I did have something that was supposedly a setback. I failed, okay, in medical school, and that's a big deal. It's like I had to lose a year, and the people that were in the same class with me had to move forward. So I was seeking God's face and I was asking, am I supposed to be a doctor? What exactly am I supposed to do? You know, sometimes people think that your ministry is to preach God's gospel. Listen, we all have our gifts. My ministry is to do what I'm doing right now to glorify God's name.
Mhm.
Okay? It's not on the pulpit saving life. It's on the it's in the business world, killing it. That's my ministry. That's my purpose. And I'm going to have to speak. So every time I am in a very difficult position, I tell God, God, think about it. If this doesn't work out, it's up to you. Like, do you know how many people were liberated just having that platform talking about you? But I was very intentional. I sought God's face about what I should do.
Okay.
Okay? I read the Bible from beginning to the end more than 3 times. Okay? I took it serious. I'll sit in on number three, and sometimes when you're intentional, you start to hear. So one of the things that I found very when I failed, I almost fell into depression. In fact, I think I was depressed. I was crying every night, and I had a friend that would listen to me. I remember going to Bible study one Wednesday. It was David Oyedepo that was preaching, and he says that God, that prayers does not answer to prayers do not answer to darkness, light does. God blesses the work of your hands. Now, this is normal, but because I was in a place where I was seeking God, I had something different.
Yeah.
Okay, I stood up and I jumped and I screamed, and everyone thought that I was crazy. But then I realized at that point that medicine was just an accessory. It was not going to define me. That
Mm.
is what I had.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Everybody had something else, but I had something differently. And that's when I started my entrepreneur journey. So this is not my first business venture. I started, importing, exporting, selling shoes while I was in medical school. I started because I realized that he says that when you're idle, so you should never be idle. Okay? You should always be doing something. Your destiny helpers do not meet you in your house. They meet you on the way. They meet you on the way while you're doing something. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up here because this is getting me all, I'm getting you all excited right now
You are.
just talking about all of these things, but yeah.
You heard what David Oyedepo said and you jumped up. That was your that is what we call
Aha
your
moment.
Kairos moments.
That
Yeah,
was it.
that was your Kairos moment. And I'm very happy that rather than you taking a different route, you sought God and God actually showed you the way. And that is why you are where you are today. And just like every other person who I have ever brought on this Young Black Female Achiever series, there's always something about God in their story. So
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
surprised that you also have God helping you on your journey.
Oh
So
yes.
gently with you, I say thank you, Jesus, for showing Dr. Cynthia the right way to go. So now we move on to the next question, which is the crux of this interview. I call it the crux because this is actually what I want my guests to always share so that other people who watch, the audience who are watching, can get encouraged. Because we always hear of success stories, we never hear people share their failures. It's actually very rare to hear people share their failures. So this is the crux of this interview, and I just want you to kindly share with us some of your failures, You know, it could be
Absolutely.
one story, it could be two stories, depending on how comfortable you're sharing.
Okay.
But we can always learn from your experience and also, um, yeah, just learn from your experience.
All right. So I'm going to be real because that's one thing I know how to do unfiltered. You know, when I told you when I said I failed, I went to medical school for 10 years and I lost 3 years in medical school.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
And let me tell you, it was all part of God's plan. In my first year in medical school, you're supposed to pass everything to move on to the next level. Now,
Mhm.
I had a lecturer, you know, when you have a pharaoh, right? I had a lecturer that decided to make my life miserable
Mhm.
and decided to fail. I was the assistant, the class rep, assistant class rep, and I failed physics practical. That is not even a course. That's something that we just go to. I was the only one in 100 and something that failed it because somebody decided to be a, be that pharaoh, right? It was my first time that I had to cry. I remember calling my father and telling him, and I was in tears. I went through pain. But you see, God was preparing me for such a time as this. That wait, there's more. There's more. At my 300 level, I also failed. Okay, I failed biochemistry. And so I had to lose the year. But this was what led me to seeking God's face. And while I was seeking God's face, and I started and I think I got my younger sister at the time. She finished high school and had some money. She gave it to me. I went to Togo. I traveled to Togo, got some shoes. I started to knock on doors and I had like knocking banks to have people sell for me. I made so much gain. I had contacts in Canada and the US sending me shoes. I had someone selling shoes for me in law school in Abuja.
Oh my God.
And one of my trips trying to go get my shoes, remember, there was a gap, there was a strike. That's
Mhm.
when I met my destiny helper, Dr. Terry Avoa. He changed my life forever. So you remember when you must be doing something. Now, who is he? He was a doctor, right, that was working in the primary health sector in the government level, right? And he had a conversation with me and asked me, like, what exactly are you doing in Abuja? I said, listen, I'm a full-time market woman and I'm a full-time businesswoman and I'm a part-time I'm a part-time in fact, I don't even think I'm supposed to be studying. I don't even know what I'm doing in medicine. And he started to ask, like, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know this person? I didn't know he was a doctor. And he told me, you know what? About 30 years ago, I failed in medical school as well. I'm like, okay, here we go. Why do I keep me in doctors? But you know what? He invited me over. I'm like, the next week he says, market woman, are you ready to make some money? I said, of course, I'm ready. And so I took a flight to, I think I got to Benin. I was in Lagos. I was enlisted to go through a training, right? I was not qualified, but I was proficient because I was trained. Remember, I was not a graduate yet.
Yeah.
And then I got into this public health. I was, traveling all over Nigeria and monitoring vaccination dropout rates. Okay. And I was being paid at the time, I was being paid over 150,000 for just a week. Listen. So this is what happened. So can you remember I failed and I failed again and I sought God and I started to sell shoes. Can you see the Israelite journey? And
Yes.
then I met my destiny helper,
Yeah.
unknown to me, that God was preparing me for such a time as this to be a health tech innovator in the maternal and child health space. So, again, I failed again. What it is to go through pain. There's nothing good that comes easy. Nothing good. You see, but you see all this pain. God, I was developing, grief. You see, the most difficult times in your life, when you get out of that fire, another version of you is born.
Gems.
You have to be very, very, listen, it either makes you or it mars you. All right? It makes you or mars you. So if you think there is nobody that is successful, okay? that's had it all good. I have cried to the point where I had no tears left. I remember a friend of mine, his name is Ephemer. He's a doctor. When I failed again, he would call me. There was a free midnight call or so. By 12, he will listen to me cry. And by 5, he was a house officer at the time. He would say, Imer, I'll call you tomorrow. So yes, when people are going through difficult times, I know what it is. Okay? So yes, people will not tell you about the journey to success. But you see, all of these times where I have most people, nothing good comes easy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no successful person that does not put in the work. Just know that, okay? They've gone through fire, they've gone through pain that have made them have a level of great. So you see, all of these things I went through was preparing me as such a time as this.
Yes.
Okay, it was part of God's plan.
Okay.
And so when I I went through that setback again. But this time around, you know what? Every time I had a setback, I always asked God what I wanted, what I should be doing at that time. So I was acquiring skills that were going to be useful in the future, in the same future I had spoken about. Okay, remember when I was in 200 level, I was telling all of my young, at this time I think I was 19, I was telling people that medicine will not define me.
Mm.
It's going to be one of the things that I have, like an earring, like an accessory. I remember I was talking to Joshua and Ogenera, my friends. Okay, telling them that, medicine would just be one of the things that I am. I told them I was going to work with the World Health Organization, remember? At this point, I did not even know I was going to fail or meet my destiny helper. You speak, what you speak, you need to be very careful with what you say about yourself
Glory.
because you coin your future and you coin your destiny with
Mm.
what you say. I used to tell people that my destiny was different. Imagine a young girl that had not, like, I was telling people my destiny was different. I had not, no, I didn't have as much experience as they are. They had gone ahead of life. They had seen life,
Mm.
right? But I was telling them that my path was going to be different. Was it different? Absolutely. Okay. It was different. Okay. And again, I've already laid the groundwork on
Mm-hmm.
I why I was qualified because I had parents that pre-qualified me. If you're not spiritual, I don't know what you should be. I had parents that pre-qualified me, and then I was speaking. Okay. Confidence comes from a place of work. You do not have confidence, you build it. You see, all of these times when I had set back, remember I said a version of me was born? Another version of me was born because I was making investment in myself. And the wisdom and the expansion, and my mind kept expanding. I was not just holding back and saying, I was left behind. It was an opportunity to grow. Okay? So do not think that your pain, your setback, right? It should be a place to cry. Find something to do. What is going to make me grow? So you see, I was very clear that I wanted to, I also used to say like I wanted to make an impact in my environment and the world at large. I was grandiose in my thought and I was unapologetic about my dream.
Oh, that's
Okay?
I have a question for you. I don't want
Okay,
to forget this. So,
sure.
the third time you failed, what was going on in your mind? Did you ever think of dropping out of medical school?
Absolutely not.
Oh my God. What was going on in your head at the time?
Okay, I need to tell you.
Okay.
When I failed the first time and I got clarity
Mm-hmm.
about what I was supposed to do, it was clear to me that this was God's plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I met my destiny helper. That was a confirmation. Okay.
Yes.
I also had an an exposure in 2013. I did my elective in South Africa in a hospital in Manguzi, and I met lots of people. I had that exposure then. So you see, when I failed again, this was pharmacology. This was the last time I failed in medical school. You know what? Oh, it was a ridiculous one too. It's not like I was supposed to be. I've always been very principled now. I do not think I am a saint. I'm not a saint. By all means, I think that I use my mom every time that, you know what, God, if you look at her, you will definitely show me messy. But I'm a very principled person, okay?
Hmm.
I had I have the privilege of having a bit of my dad, a bit of my mom, but I'm very assertive. Well, I failed again, and at this point, I wasn't dropping out. I knew that this was part of God's plan. Remember, I already had a head start. I was already having work experience. You know, can you remember when they say that you should never be idle? You must always do something.
Right.
Always occupy yourself. So if you have that setback, instead of you crying and you know, get those certifications, apply for those grants, go for those conferences,
Hmm.
get yourself, invest in yourself, expand your mind. Exposure is the highest form of education. Okay? The thing about education is it teaches us to be disciplined. Anyone that has gone through any form of education and starts and finishes it, it means that you've been able to learn discipline. You're committed. Okay? If you can take that level of discipline and put into anything that you're clear about what this is what God wants you to do, you're going to flourish.
Amazing.
So
So,
remember, I failed 3 times and I started to have like, exposure in the maternal and child health sector. What does Sleep and Cradle do? We are a pioneering health tech solution that prevents and resolves postnatal sleep challenges with 100% effectiveness. Remember, I was taking care of someone's baby and they were very impressed and they called me. They said, "Can I do this?" And then, of course, they were a review about me, and I had 35 parents trying to hire me simultaneously. So at this time, this was just a part-time gig, right? But I already had over 10 years of relevant, like I had 9 years of relevant work experience.
mm,
And I was trying to get into residency. You can see all of those,
connections, yes.
you see all the connections.
Hmm.
And you know Joseph, right? He had this dream that was very grandiose. Okay? Even his kinsmen, his siblings sold him out because they were angry. Listen, people are going to be uncomfortable with your dream.
Right.
I had lots of enemies. I was like I was an outliner. I've always been an outliner. Okay? I'd always been an outliner.
Even
And
though
there's
you went
nobody,
through all of these challenges and they never went through the same.
what'd you say?
I said, even though you went through all of the challenges, there were still people who were mad at your success.
Oh, okay. But there were people that were mad at the fact that I was getting more confident and even encouraging people. I remember a resident doctor.
Oh my God.
He failed his exam. And he came to me and he asked me, "How do I do it?" Oh, even though I had filled in and I was now in a class with people, that were now below me, like they were not originally I said,
Hmm.
"I'll be the first to be in class, in front." Yes. Listen, the only person you're in competition with is yourself. Okay?
Hmm.
You're only in competition with yourself. Okay? So I was very clear. It says it starts towards us of good enough evil to bring us to an expected end.
And hmm.
All things work it out for good for them to love and recall that according to this purpose. Listen, when I start speaking, I knew. Yeah, sometimes you go through pain. I was at the time when I started to have the setback, I thought like, but why?
Hmm.
But it was part of God's plan.
Plan.
He
Yes.
saw ahead. He saw ahead, right?
Yes.
And so there was no question about there was no question about, if I had to, if I distrusted God or if I doubted him. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because he already gave me opportunities and I was blossoming. It was just a setback. I was doing stuff. Listen, I was doing so much that I could not even share what I was doing with my peers because they wouldn't even believe it. I remember sharing that I was working with National Primary Healthcare Development Agency with one of my family friends that was like in 600 level at the time. He's in Canada, he's into public health. He did not believe me. But
Right.
it turned out like when he graduated, he started to work with National Primary Healthcare Development Agency in Abuja and knows my mentor.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
there to be like, oh my God, I'm like, seriously?
Yes.
So that kind of blessing where you didn't even know how to share the blessing because you don't want to make people feel. So I was very right from time. I was very, very, I was very coded.
Yeah.
I could be doing stuff, but you would not know.
Okay. So it's safe to say that your self-discipline, your awareness of God, and letting God hold your hands made you go through that period successfully, right?
Oh, yes. So
Okay.
is it,
Okay. Go ahead.
when you go through difficult times,
Mhm.
is a learning curve.
Okay.
Okay? God is teaching you how to hold on. And remember when I told you that being an entrepreneur is a gift? Oh, so when we say we work by faith and not by sight, that's entrepreneurship. Okay, you're holding on and you're believing in something that you're not seeing,
Hmm.
investing in things, and it has not come to be. Remember, I've gone through pain and I've smiled.
Through it all.
I've got like gracefully. Okay, so this was a learning curve for me.
Hold that thought. I have a question.
Okay.
This is very important. It might seem silly, but it's very important. So, all through the while you were going through that phase, how did you handle gossips and side talks about you?
Oh, I have, you can say whatever you say. I do not care. I have, I do not care because you see the people gossiping about you. When they see you, they shut up. I do not have time for pep talks. I could count the, okay. One of the things I protected in my life for the quality of friends. I can count the amount of friends I have. I had a very small circle of friends.
Okay.
In medical school, I probably had just four to five friends. They were very niche, very niche.
Mhm.
Okay? You need to guard your circles. I didn't have time for gossip, like, well, whatever anybody says. Remember, even though, people had gone ahead of me, I was making thousands and thousands of dollars at the time where people were looking forward to graduating and working as doctors. When I was in the 300 level, I was already making over what a doctor is making. What are you talking about?
Okay.
God
I know
is
your answer. I know your answer to this question, but I might just still ask.
good.
So,
Okay.
how were you able to keep yourself focused, not letting the money you were making at the time prevent you from continuing with your medical education? Because it's very easy for you to see money and love it. Because a lot of times, most of the artists we have these days, for the ones who are yet to complete their education, they start making money so early. So it's always very difficult for them to go back into the school system. But in your case, you were making money, you were traveling, and then you still had the time to complete your medical education. How?
Well, first of all, my dad would have disowned me. So my dad So all the while when I was making all this money, of course I was telling my dad. My dad was still paying my bills. You never tell a man that you have money, especially your dad. You never have money, right? Of course, so my dad places so much value on education. He didn't go to college.
Okay.
But for him, we had to go. He had already, set it up like, listen, you must do this. There's no doubt about it. But it had nothing to really do with my dad. It was my commitment to education. I
Yeah.
always tell people that education, it doesn't really guarantee success. Like you could have all the PhD, you can be a doctor, you can, but whatever. Okay? However, education will teach you discipline and persistence. I would rather hire someone that has shown a level of dedication and commitment start to finish than someone that's always jumping from one thing to another. Okay, that's a pattern, is a characteristic. Like these are the things that people look at. What's your commitment level? Right? So today you want to be a musician. Today you're a specialist with this. Tomorrow you're a specialist with something. Next tomorrow you're talking about something. Guess what? Even your audience, they're confused. You don't know what you are. You consistency, and that is the thing about education. It's not to say that people are not successful
Yeah.
without education. There are lots of entrepreneurs. Most of them are not they don't go to college and all that. That's great, but they do have grit. They do know how to hold on. But can you imagine if someone is a born entrepreneur and has been able to go, do you know how hard medical school is? Medical school is so hard. And in Nigeria, there's no DEI.
Mm,
Okay. You don't get into medical school because you're a girl. Okay. The
right,
best of the best get in, and the best of the best graduated.
right.
Okay. People will drop out on the way. Okay? And that's how it is. So the best of the best gets in, the best of the best graduates, and is also a skill to pass exams. There are lots of factors, but it's a level of training. They teach you, they put you through so much training to make a decision about a life in less than 15 minutes. It's
Mhm,
the highest form of calling after God.
mm.
It is, I think it's a service. To be a doctor and to be compassionate. I'm not talking about people that are just doctors because they want to be doctors. Like when you meet, they're doctors and they're doctors.
Right.
The people that you interact with and you feel very comfortable with them. It's a calling to be a doctor. But you see, they're listening to you, they're taking a history, and it is their years of training, coming together, marrying physical examination with your story to just make a decision about a life that could cost the life,
Hmm.
that could either save the life or lose the life. So it is something that requires a form of discipline, precision, commitment, and compassion.
Okay, thank you. Did you do anything special for yourself when you eventually graduated? I'm just curious. Did you
No.
celebrate? Why? Why was that? Why didn't you celebrate? Why didn't you do something special?
Oh, like there was a celebration, but I was thinking like, what's next? Like, what's the next one? Like, I'm a quite very ambitious. Like, I'm thinking about okay, what's next?
Next step, yes.
And that's how success is. Success is it's a
Never.
work in progress. It's
Yeah.
never you get to the next phase and you were like, okay, what's
What
next?
next?
Well,
Yeah.
what's next? And that's it, really.
Okay. So now that you're much grown with more experience and a great understanding of life and its challenges, when you just see younger women going through similar situations or even worse, what comes to mind? Are you drawn to them? Do you want to share your story with them? Do you feel drawn to encourage them in some way or the other? What happens?
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, when you when you go through I'm able to connect with people more because I've had experiences that are painful.
Hmm.
And so when I see people thinking they're having it bad, I mean, can you imagine all the setbacks that I had. Do you think I would ever have cried over a boyfriend?
That would be the least on your plate.
You know,
Yes.
This life is not like, especially as Nigerian kids, our parents shield us so much. Like, especially the girl child. Oh my God, I have to give it to Nigerian parents. They
Mhm.
really protect us. If they could, they would do everything and even marry you off. Okay? Just
Mhm.
because they do not want you to really go through any form of hardship. But
Mhm.
if you're able to go through pain, it's just like if you're dedicated to working out, right? You're pushing your mind, you're pushing your body.
Mhm.
It's discipline. It's a form of discipline. You're able to sit down and really work for 8 hours. You're able to sit down and work through. You see, when I fail, even in business, like, you could pitch, you could try something, it doesn't work out, right? You've just figured out a way that does not work. On to the next one. I do not have a rare mirror syndrome. Okay. I've just figured out a way that does not work. What's next?
Next, yes.
Okay. And that comes when like, you've gone through a lot and you're able to, well, again, there is something about hitting rock bottom.
Mm,
Okay? There is something about being in a difficult path, right? It's one of the most transformation time in your life. What you do is either going to make you or mar you.
yeah.
Okay, that is a very important time. You might become very, very creative. When I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I've tried everything, the way I start to think is really fast. You can think under pressure. You're thinking out your way. But again, I've had very unique experience where even though I'm very calm and very sitting, listen, I have been through pain.
Yeah,
I've been through pain. And so I can really connect to people that are going through pain, depending on where they are.
yeah.
And the way to really connect with people is to share your story.
Yeah. And I
And
can actually corroborate that statement you made previously about being creative when you're going through pain. This show, this young Black female achiever series, was actually born out of pain for me. I was going through a very difficult phase in my life, and I just heard God speak to me, why don't you start this? There is absolutely no connection between what I was going through and this, but I listened, and here we are today. Okay, so to move forward, you said three things, or you gave us three steps you actually took during your season of pain. First, you said you read a lot to expand your mind, and interestingly, you read a lot of David Oyedepo books. I love that. Secondly, you sought God about your purpose. You even went ahead to go to Bible school.
oh, I did.
That is superb. And the third step you took was that you constantly spoke life into yourself, and you still do speak life into yourself. So my question right now is, what is your advice to younger women in addition to these three steps you've given to us? What steps do you think they can go through to navigate difficult situations and become better in whatever career path they have chosen?
Okay. Now, again, you need to understand your purpose. A purpose driven life is so important, right? Once you understand your purpose in life, right,
Mhm.
you'll be fine.
Mm.
You will be fine. I'm very clear that I'm doing what God wants me to do at this point and not being in residency. I am very clear about it.
Okay.
Okay, and so when I see people that had gone ahead of me. That's not my pathway. This is my pathway.
Mm.
And that's because I've gotten clarity on what I am supposed to do.
Mm.
And so he would never leave me or forsake me because when I'm looking back, it's a pathway that has prepared me for such a time as this.
Mm.
And oh my God, I'm one hell of a compassionate person. Even, I've had a baby die on me.
Oh my God. So
And
sorry.
the parents thanked me afterwards. Okay. Do you know why?
Right.
Because even the parents gave up on the baby, but I did not until he gave up on me. That is how invested I am. I would never give up on a patient. I would never give up on anything. I'm committed to what I pursue. I would never give up on anything until it does give up on me.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
it. Okay? So if you seek, if you understand what you're supposed to do, you will you will get relevant and you're doing and you're not idle. Opportunities will open up that will give you relevant experience that will make you ready for your purpose.
Mm.
Um there's always a school. Okay. So most times I see people, they launch a business and all they want to do is be all over social media, or they want to talk. I am this, I'm that, I'm this. And then people start to figure out that you really have nothing to offer. Like, okay, so what are you offering? What do you do? Then you start to hear very ridiculous things. Do not be in a hurry to be on camera. Do the work. Do the work. Okay? When you do the work and the opportunity comes where there's a platform, you will be ready. You will be ready. Okay? I was talking to the host. In all transparency, I did not prepare for this interview. Okay?
Get back to me.
I did not prepare for it. But I have been preparing all my life. How about that? Okay? I've been preparing all my, with exception to when I'm pitching, okay? I prepare for that because that is I'm making a case, right? So there are things you prepare for, but you see, I'm already prepared for anything because every step of the way, I've made sure that I was not idle. Okay? So I want to tell you that if you're going through a difficulty, it's okay. It's okay. Get a community of people that are positive. Get a community of people that are progressive. You know, I told you I had very few friends.
Mhm.
My friends were the only ones that really knew how I spoke. Because sometimes when you share your dreams with people, they will kill it and kill you in the process.
Right.
That's a fact. And before you know it, you start to sound like everybody else.
Mm,
Okay? And but that's what the world is also about. Like you might have a fantastic solution and you think that everyone is going to embrace you. Absolutely not. The world does not care about you.
mm,
Okay? They don't care about you. All they care about, people are so obsessed about themselves, they're not thinking about you. So if you didn't go through the school of learning how to navigate and build that great, can you see how disappointed you would be at the world? You'll be so disappointed. But if you have gone through the school on how to go through pain,
mm,
on how to persevere, on how to hold on, you will be able to navigate. You would understand, okay, you've had this no. I hear no for money, lunch, and dinner. That's normal. Okay. In fact, I'm hesitant when I hear yes so fast. Okay, right? And that's because I have gone through a school that makes me navigate and pivot really fast.
mm.
I fail really fast and I'm up.
Really
And I
fast.
don't see it as a I don't see it as a failure, I see it as a learning curve. Okay, I just figured out what does not work. What's next?
What next?
Okay.
So,
And that's the way that's my outlook. There's
mm,
never failure. It doesn't matter the thousands of dollars that I've had to invest like in marketing with no returns on investments. I know that whatever it is I did not work. So what can I do differently?
right. Thank you, Cynthia. I wrote some things down. There's I caught from what you said. It is safe to say pain is a blessing because it is an avenue for growth. Thank you. That is going to stay with me. And one key advice you gave that I'm also going to run with is this. You said, do not be in a hurry to be in front of the camera. Do the work. When the opportunity comes, you will be ready. You are such a breath of fresh air, Cynthia. Thank
Thank
you.
you, love.
And now to our final question. I honestly didn't want you to go, but we just have to go because you are a busy doctor. Okay, so are you interested in mentoring young women? And I ask this question because I am passionate about younger girls. I feel like God has given me a platform to raise younger girls the right way. So I always ask all my guests this question. Are you currently mentoring young girls or do you have the intention to mentor young girls? If so,
Oh yes. As a matter of fact, I do have lots of I'm mentoring people.
okay.
And this is something that I've always had. I've always known that this is a calling for me to be able to connect, to share, and to uplift, right?
Mhm,
That's a gift, right? I'm happy because the goal is to make people, you see, the glory of the latter will be greater than that of the former.
mhm,
So we would have failed if we're not able to replicate ourselves and people to be as good as us or better. That's a legacy because they will always speak about you. My mother is not here. She's not tech savvy. She's probably not gonna watch this interview, but can you see the way I'm speaking about her?
Absolutely.
Oh, so the goal is to it's just like Esther. Esther knew that the position as queen
Mm,
was for such a time as that to deliver Israel. When God elevates you, when you're in that position and you think you're successful, God has given you an opportunity to help other people. So do not take it lightly. And I tell people that wherever it is I am right now, I do not take for granted because I know that God has given me this opportunity to influence other people, to get better leverage and power for other people, to train people, to give them a better earning power. That's an opportunity. My success is not just my success. It is an opportunity to liberate, to uphold, to mentor. And I do not take it for granted because this is what God is going to ask me. What did you do? What did you do with your position? What did you do with your gift? Like you don't have to serve in church and sleep in church to glorify God. God has given us our calling. So everything comes down to understanding your purpose. Because if you don't understand your purpose, you will leave other people's purpose.
mhm.
You're going to be easily swayed and used and disposed.
Mm,
Okay? You
mm,
need to understand. You need to understand what you are wired to do. And it's okay to be a follower.
mhm. Thank
Yeah, there's air on the noses. That's some gift. Listen, being a leader is a gift.
mm,
Okay? I'm convinced that being an entrepreneur, that people are born to be an entrepreneur. And I know some of us might say, oh, people were born into wealth. Yes, some people are born into wealth. They have a head start. But let me tell you something. It takes hard work to retain wealth. Okay? And
yeah.
I've had the privilege of working with people that are highly, highly successful, very popular people. They are regimented. They wake up by 5 a.m. They're working out. They have meetings down to 10. The point is, you must understand what you're meant to do. We all have a purpose. Once you get the clarity, no matter what happens, you'll be grounded. You stay firm, right? You stay firm. So when people ask me, you're not practicing as a doctor. You're not practicing as a doctor in the healthcare sector. I'm above the cup. I'm doing something. Like if you want to do what everyone wants you to do, you're just going to be a number. You'll not be fulfilled. Have you
Absolutely.
seen people working and they're working, they can pay the bills, but they're not fulfilled
Mhm.
because they just did everything that they were told to do. But
Mm.
once you find the purpose right, once you understand what you're meant to do, no matter what happens along the way, you'll be able to pull through.
Thank you, Dr. Cynthia. You have much more than a pretty face and head on your shoulders. You are a star. You are a star. So if anyone in the audience wants to reach out to you, how can they reach you? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Instagram, Facebook? Where would you like them to reach out to you?
Well, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn
Okay.
and send me a message. I'm
Okay.
very active on LinkedIn.
Okay. So you give us
I
your permission to put your LinkedIn profile
Oh
or
yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll definitely answer your questions there if you want to connect. On other platforms, I might have people working on those platforms, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But on LinkedIn, yes, you're going to reach me directly on LinkedIn.
Okay. Guys, I don't have anything else to say to you. You've already told from Dr. Cynthia, and All I can just say to you today is thank you for gracing this show with your beautiful self, with your smart self. We appreciate you for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we'll see you guys again. It's bye for now. Bye. Same